Dashun Foundation to allow me to represent Invest in Cambodia to present today about the legal environment of construction industry in Cambodia. I'll make the presentation. First of all, I'll present about the legal system in Cambodia. After that, how to setting up a business in Cambodia before ending on the legal framework, particularly in the construction industry in Cambodia. Cambodia, in a sense, is a constitutional monarchy, which we have our king as the head of states. It's since the Civil War, we have adopted the constitution in 1993, and it has been amended since then for many times. It's a free market economy. We have a parliamentary system of the government, which are the bicameral combined of the National Assemblies and Senates. The head of the government is the prime ministers. We got the system divided in the provincial, municipal courts, appeal courts, and Supreme Court, and we follow the civil law system. Look at the court system. We have at the first instance court, which are located at each municipal and provincial levels. We got also military court. The municipal and provincial courts have 4 specialized chambers, which are criminal, civil, commercials, and labor. But until today, there's no yet of civil, commercial procedure yet. So the chambers of commercial, the commercial chamber is not yet activated at the first instance court. So every business or commercial litigation have to go through the normal civil chambers. Its jurisdiction covers normally the area in which the court is located. So if we are in Phnom Penh capital city, so the court, the first instance court of Phnom Penh is competent or some provinces, and it reviews the questions of law and facts. For the military court, which is mainly located in Phnom Penh capital city, settle cases related to the military offenses or offenses related to the property of the armed force. The appeal courts, before there's only one appeal court, which is located in the Phnom Penh capital cities, but recently there's a change in the organization of the appeal courts in Cambodia to accelerate more the litigation and court cases that have been stuck within the appeal court. So it has been created 3 more, which are in Battambang, Sihanouk, and Bông Khmer provinces. Those courts jurisdictions cover more provinces of its attribution location, mostly in its region. Let's say capital city is more for the capital cities and also the province in the centrals of Cambodia. Battambang, it's for more of the first instance court that are in the west of the countries. Sihanouk, it's more coastal areas, and Bông Khmer is more northeast of the countries. We have at the highest of the jurisdiction system, which is the Supreme Court, also located in Phnom Penh capital cities, and its jurisdiction cover all of Cambodia's, and it's adjudicates questions of law. Beside the court system, we have also the alternative dispute resolutions. In 2013, the National Commercial Arbitration Center was established, and Cambodia is a member of the New York Conventions on the Recognition of Foreign Arbitral Awards since 1958. There is also the mechanism and collective labor dispute heard by the Labor Arbitration Councils, and that council has been established since 2003 and has been successful put in place and used by all the Chamber of the Commerce, investors, and also by the workers. Until today, there's approximately for the National Commercial Arbitration Center, approximately until today, there's around 25 cases, and the total value of the claim estimated at approximately of 72 millions. Majority of the parties are Cambodian so far, but we see there's an increasing of foreigners investors who are using the National Commercial Arbitration Centers, which are most of the time China, including Hong Kong business person, of course, Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand. The dispute cover most of the time on the shareholder dispute or the contract dispute, mostly relating in real estate, for example, pertaining to the property acquisition or the others relating real estate issues. And since its inception in 2013 until now, so let's say it's about 7 to 8 years since its inception, there's one award already that has been recognized and enforced by the Singapore jurisdiction. So now we are seeing how to setting up a business in Cambodia. For investor, normally there are 3 types of to setting up their investment in Cambodia. They can open like a commercial representative or office, commercial a relation office or a branch or a subsidiaries. There are also the kind of partnership and sole proprietorship that provided by the law. But so far, we see there are more of capital companies, which is the limited companies that are cover mainly on Cambodian investment market. For the investment factors and incentive and restriction, we see that there's equal treatment. So foreign investors are not discriminated against in any ways, except in the case of ownership of the land. However, foreign investors are permitted to hold land through long-term lease, including land concession too. There's also incentive that we all have heard from the first speaker on the qualified investment project, which is eligible for 3 to 9 years profit tax holidays and import duty-free access for capital materials. I like to catch the attention also that there's also the negative list that set out for some sectors that are not entitled to incentive. And this include production of tobacco, currency and financial business and services, professional services, production and processing of wood products, casino and gambling, and real estate development, hotels that are below 3 stars grade, and small scale agricultures. There's also no restriction on remitting funds. The economy is most of the time dollarized, but if there's the policy of Khmer real democratization in the use in the market, so you might have more incentive from the government policy if you use the Khmer reals. There is 10% ratio on foreign workers that are allowed for the business, and 20% of the corporate tax. So investment structure and mechanism, most of the time is like limited liability companies, which are the most common form of structures. And according to the law, commercial enterprise law, the minimum capital is 1,000, except for some regulated industries such as bank, insurance company, that they might require more high investment and security deposit at the National Bank of Cambodia. Establishment of the company is approximately 1 month, with the QIP companies established through city centers, which around 3 to 6 months. So there's no rule on local participation requirement in the shareholdings or directorships. 100% foreign directors and shareholder is permitted. But there's one requirement for the chairman to personally register at the tax department. In practice, there might have some flexibility if the chairman cannot be him or herself in Cambodia. Administratively, there are some burdensome to amend company structures, transfer of all shares or change of director, etc. So everything is listed on the merger and on the memorandum and article of incorporations. Before we are going to the key success factor, I like to raise up some operational considerations that business owner have to be aware. More and more developing of union movement are coming more and more. Especially today, there are more presence of the union movement on the manufacturing or government sectors and hotels, but it's become expanding into other sectors, but not yet in construction sectors. There's also improving infrastructure for manufacturing and commerce. So we can see a moment ago that there's improvement of the road, of the powers, such as electricity, and government services have a lot improved too. But they still have high cost of port processing for import and export. Relatively high cost of electricity, all those being addressed with additional power supplies. But we can say that within 5 years, the government will reach their policies, and especially the solar energy power plant that will come up and supplement the needs of the growing and the development of the countries. There's also newly revised and enhanced and involving tax registration and filing system, which help a lot in practice the daily doing business. On the labor, since the population is quite young, so there's lower level of productivity of the worker. These have been observed particularly in the manufacturing sectors, because they have more low skill middle management, despite there's the improvement that every business owner have observed and recognized that more and more young Cambodian generations arrive and improve more and more in the middle management. There is a need for in-house training because there are some specialization is late in the local trainings. So if you want to come in the construction sectors, especially for the engineering, you have to consider also of the local trainings and the in-house training. The contract enforcement can be sometimes problematic and quite headaches, but still the enforcement has been improved since the reforms of the court structures, because there's the queue of the long list of the court case. Some land tenure issue also for agricultural land to the large portion of unregistered land. So, on this, there has a improvement little by little, considering the policies and the effort of the government. So for the key, to summarize, for the key success factor, if you want to invest in Cambodia, so there's 100% foreign-owned investment, no restricted sectors, no restriction on remittance of funds, low capital requirement, low cost of labor, young population that can be trained in-house, growing of the middle class, which translate also into the consumption and demand locally. There are easy access to government official through, especially through the public-private sector working groups. Most of the human resource which are in the city are widely spoken in English. Easy work permit and visa requirement comparing to other countries in the regions. There's a growth, strong GDP growth of 7%, considering even despite the COVID-19, but they still have little impacts thanks to the policies of the vaccines and the management of the COVID. And there's untapped resource, particularly in the agricultures. So now you know what are the factors, and we will see what are the legal framework in construction industry exactly. So the land law in Cambodia allows for private ownership of land for Cambodian individuals or Cambodian entities. It allows also the leasing, which have into the two categories: the short term, which is the period of time which are under 15 years, and the long term, which is over 15 years, which constitute a rise in arrears. Maximum lease duration can be 50 years plus 50-year extension. There's also mechanism of concession and state-owned property that can be considered for a period of 70 years, although now particularly reduced to 50 years in the practice to be consistent with the leasing law. The land ownership of foreigner, however, have been prohibited by our constitution for the ownership of the land. So if the company want to own the land, it has to be the Cambodian companies. According to the law, what is Cambodian company is that the shareholders have to be Cambodian or Khmer, 51% and 49% foreigner. And however, foreigners can own apartment about the ground floors, only applicable in buildings that are registered under the co-ownership process. So there's a separate certificate of ownership of private unit issues. Only 70% of the total area of the private unit in the co-ownership building can be owned by foreigners. Recently, the update of the regulation is particularly in the construction car parkings. The ministry now issuing title deed for the car parking floors, which is not the case before in the high-rise development. However, to get those individual title deed on the car parking things, it needs to have the wall of the car park area. But most developers opt for the title deed for the entire floors directly, and then set up a contract arrangement for the apartment owners to get exclusive right to car park spot rather than getting the individual title deed. There's also PRACA, which is a regulation in Cambodia on the land development, who has intention to promote greens area in all developments by requirement a certain percent of the site reserved for greens area, not at this, but that requirement is not at this stage well enforced yet. And all developments are now also required to have an environmental impact assessment, EIA. Site closing certificate will not be approved like before without an EIA. So this is a new requirement that has been applied even retroactively to the construction that have not got the closing certificate. So if we look at the construction law, since Cambodian opened its market and have the constitution system, the Cambodian construction law is mainly governed by the subdecree number 86 on the construction permit, and it was adopted in 1997. There's also PRACA number 32 on the management of the construction site. In 2001, there's Code Civil Code 2000, which is adopted in 2007, which has provision relating to work contracts. Most of the time, Article 652 to 663. And there's also the PRACA number 72 on renovation permit and other relevant decision and notification from the Ministry of Land and Management, Urban Planning and Construction before its adoption of the construction law in 2019. So we see that in 2019, there's the adoption of the construction law have been expedited after many collapse of building which have no qualities, especially in the coastal areas. So the adoption of the construction law is a step to strengthen the construction qualities in Cambodia. but it's also trigger and require many other regulations. To give us an example, in 2019, there's several sub-decrees and practice and decisions already. To name it, there's the sub-decrees number 225 on the condition and procedures of the construction inspection and certifications. There's the sub-decree 244 on construction permits. There, the sub-decree 226 in 2020 also, which stipulate on the condition and procedures for issuance and suspension and revocation of the occupancy certificate. There's also the program number 33, which is recently 2021, on the formality for the issuance of license, issuance of new license sheets, and termination and renewal of license for construction inspection and certification. So when we talk about the construction law, we would think of these cycles of things. There are supervising authorities, professionals and companies, building compliance, CMEP producers, construction works, and property developers, and urban and zoning. For building compliance, for the authority, we have Ministry of Land Management, Urban and Planning and Constructions. We got at the subdivision, subnational levels, we got the municipality. For example, for Phnom Penh, we got Phnom Penh capitals, and also provincial levels to work on it. And the national level, you got a CAN in Khmer language, which is this district, who have those authority have the competence to provide construction permits, demolition permits, site opening permits, repair permits, and occupancy certificate, which is something new. Maybe in other regulation is the closing site certificate, and it has been applied since end of 2020. It needs also for the building compliance, beside the permits, it needs also the construction inspection minutes issued by the construction inspector. Normally, the validity is 5 years for the non-resident shore construction and 10 years for the residential construction. It's the building compliance requires also the environmental permits or approval. So there's a necessity to have the full EIA or initial EIA for projects that potentially cause impact to the environment. There's also the needs of EMP that assess environmental negative impact of the projects, and also the EPC, which commitment to the environment project for smaller projects. Building compliance have also the requirements on the fire prevention and fighting certificates. The certificate for fire prevention and fire fighting system plan, so the developer must have that. They must have also the certificate on quality effectiveness of fire prevention and by fire fighting for 2 years, and the certificate of the training on fire prevention and fire fighting. Looking at the production, import, and suppliers of CMEPs, who are the producer here? We can, according to the law, the producer definition falls into manufacturers, importers, and suppliers. So, and for the construction materials, equipment, and products, the CMEPs, materials, according to our law, it's related to the raw materials for building structures such as cement, steels, etc. For the equipment, our law focus more on fixture attached to the construction, such as elevator, wire cable, lamps, sinks, and taps. For the products, it's more the final or quasi-final products for building structures, such as concrete or bricks. The CMEP's necessity to ensure quality and safety of the user are required to be certified by the national Standard Councils of Cambodia. The CMEP is not yet prepared on this, and the producer liability for damage caused by defective products, there's conditions for discharge of liability according to our law, particularly Article 81 of the construction law. So at the time when CMEP were put on sales or distributed, the hitherto scientific and technical knowledge was unable to find the defect which caused the damage. And the CMEPs were produced in compliance with construction technical regulator, which is the CTO. There are also statute of limitation, which is stipulated in Article 82 of our law. 3 years after awareness by the victim or her representative, within 10 years from the first delivery by the producer, or within 20 years in case of containing dangerous substance causing harms to health. On the construction works, there's construction technical regulations, which are the norms. But now it's still pending the establishment of NCCTO in Cambodia, because it's quite you know that the law is just adopted in 2019. So there's a lot of things that we need to prepare, and the government need more time to put things in place. There are also the construction standard of Cambodia, but not yet prepared by the national standard councils. And there are 4 categories of license for construction business, depending on the themes, on the scale and the size of the projects that the contractor want to handle. Contractors' legal warranty for defective works, unless otherwise provided longer by the parties, by their own contracts, mutual contracts, and agreements. So according to the Article 71 of our construction law, so it is 10 years for the main building structures, 5 years door, window, for doors, window, exteriors, wall and roof, 2 years for the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing MEP system. For the property developer, we have 2 categories of property developers. The first type of developers, they cannot sell their private unit of the project. They can sell it only at the end of their projects of the which means at the end of the construction and closing of the site of the construction. There are second type, which is commonly and mainly used in Cambodia too. It's they have faced different phase of development, and they start to sell at the same time the private unit during the construction period. So at this part, they mostly can generate the capitals of the buyer or consumer to reinvest in the next phase of the development. On urban and zoning, we have the zoning for urban and zoning. We have archaeological, such as in Siem Reap or in Phnom Penh, where there is limitation for the constructions. For the economy, there is also the special economic zone in those areas. It's zoning specialists, and recently there's also the for the construction law that triggers a lot of things, the amendment of the land law on the law on real estate registrations, which was before regulations since 2013, but now it's becoming a law on the real estate registrations. There's on a law on land management and urban planning that was before abandoned. It was the law in 1999, but it was abandoned, but now it's reactivated back that law for the urban plannings and zoning. And now there's the new law, which is law on residence. So So thank you for your attentions. If you have any questions, I am happy that you can send, because we cannot elaborate the full context of the law within this short time of time. So if you need anything, feel free to contact us directly through our info, because Invest in Cambodia, we provide the connecting between investor in Asia with sustainable investment in Southeast Asia. We facilitate close relation with government. We work also with CDC here and uh, the sustainable development, and we provide cooperation and strategic partner in Cambodian consulting advisories for institutional investor and foundation and business angel. We can get the portfolio or investment opportunity that align with the UN Sustainable Development Goal. We are also supporting like ecotourism projects and land opportunity in Cambodia. So thank you.